we go. We just need Jay.
Jay must be out of the country somewhere. He's taking so long to get LinkedIn.
Well, and it's like he's on a delayed schedule.
Yeah.
So, I mean, when he says something, it's very delayed. So.
I'm going to track down Sherry Hale this week because she knows Apple's inside and out, see if she can get mine to work.
I think we might be live streaming at this point. So we'll just wait for Dr. Fenwick to join us.
There's Miss Stark. I haven't talked to you, Tiara, but you did a fantastic job at graduation. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that. It was a great day.
I hope you didn't blister as bad as I did.
It's okay. I'm all good now.
Irish skin. Can't take the pain.
Mr. Henrys, if I may ask just for the streaming and also for the capturing for the live stream, any staff who are joining us, if they could mute their video cameras and we'll just show our board members, that would be helpful. And I think we are still just waiting on Dr. Childers.
Dr. Fenwick.
Excuse me, Dr. Fenwick.
You're usually waiting on Dr. Childers. I know.
Yeah, that's normal.
No comment from the chair on that.
Long history. Glad you're not sitting behind me.
Okay, gotcha.
Guys, while we're sitting here waiting, I just want to say that I thought that was an outstanding graduation. I had a lot of positive feedback from other families that I've seen that attended like I did. And I just think our school system did an outstanding job with that.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Fenwick did a great job directing traffic too. He really did.
He might be able to have a second career out there.
He was a trooper, I tell you.
But Ron, I kind of worried about you up there being so fair-skinned.
I paid the price, Steve, I can tell you. And what was bad, a couple of days later, I had to go to the dermatologist.
Oh, no.
And explain to him why I stood out in the sun for 5 or 6 hours. That wasn't good.
I bet there was no explaining that, was there?
No, he didn't want to hear it. Folks, if you have joined we're waiting for Dr. Fenwick to join us, and we'll be starting the meeting in just a minute as soon as he connects with us.
Thank you, Mr. Combs. And I'll say a little bit more about that in just a moment, but certainly lots of thanks to Dr. Blanton, Ms. Stark, all the administrators at Watauga High School, the teachers there, and the student leaders who helped give input into it. But it was a great day, and hope that your family and others enjoyed it.
We certainly did.
Dr. Elliott, I'm going to ask that we go ahead and start. Here he is. He just now got here. And he's outdoors this time. Hey, Jay. All right. Everybody's here now. So I want to welcome everybody to the June the 8th, 2020 Watauga County Board of Education open session. We hope everybody's enjoying this nice warm weather we've got, and no snow days to worry about at this point in time. Dr. Elliott gets more sleep than he used to. And, so we always start our meetings with a moment of silence, and we would appreciate if everybody would observe this at this time. Thank you very much. Do we have any adjustment of the agenda?
Yes, Mr. Henrys, I just want to say for public record that we added an item E to number 2 closed session, the discussion of the purchase of real property with no action taken. Discussion item in the closed session.
Okay. At this time, we'll have the superintendent's report. Dr. Elliott.
Fantastic. Thank you again for joining us, and to the board members for being willing to have a flexible virtual meeting like this. And thank you to all the staff who are joining us and the public online. I just want to, again, as we have done several times over the last couple of weeks, to say a sincere thank you to all of the teachers, the administrators, and the staff of Watauga County Schools for such an incredible display of professionalism, flexibility, grace, hard work, and dedication, problem solving, strong communication throughout remote learning and all of your work during this school year. And we should also be reminded that 2 or 3/4 of the school year occurred before the closure of school in March, and then so many incredible things have occurred all throughout the school year. And I just want to say thank you to all of the Watauga County Schools teachers for their hard work. I want to say congratulations to the graduating class of 2020. And as Mr. Combs was saying right before the start of the meeting, we had a fantastic graduation experience. I want to thank Mr. Henrys for his dedication to stand on the stage for hour after hour after hour on Saturday and congratulating our students and conferring their diplomas. Dr. Fenwick displayed his well-hidden traffic management skills. So thanks to him for jumping in and doing whatever was needed to help keep the traffic flowing. And I want to say thank you to the teachers and the counselors and all of the staff at Watauga High School for pulling off what was the most creative, unique, and celebratory graduation we probably ever had, but most certainly, given the circumstances, the best that could have possibly been done. I've heard so many compliments from parents and students about the day. And it was a very long day that went by very quickly just because of all of the celebrations that occurred. So congratulations to that graduating class. We have a graduation video that has been funded by the Watauga Education Foundation. They also funded the live stream of the graduation event. And it will be a little over an hour of showing the graduation ceremony from beginning to end, with the families arriving at the school, and then the speech that occurred several days before, and the ROTC displaying the colors and the teachers playing the national anthem, Mr. Henrys, Dr. Blanton, and students giving speeches, and then a video of every single student walking across the stage. So thanks to the Watauga Education Foundation for that funding, for providing that video. And it will be ready for our seniors and families to have possibly as soon as tomorrow, but certainly during this week. Last month, I mentioned that we would bring to you a revised school calendar for the 2020-2021 school year based on the revision to the school calendar law and the COVID relief bill that passed. After reviewing the requirements of the bill and the calendar that was already approved, I don't believe that we actually need a change to the calendar. The start date of August 17th already complies with the mandatory start date outlined in the school calendar law, and the number of days and hours that are required in the law are already included in our plan. What is new is that we must designate 5 of our days or use 5 of our days as remote learning days. So I will probably have a little better idea about that prior to the start of the school year. But right now we anticipate that we will use probably 4 of those days for or during our first weather days, whether those be flooding due to hurricane events in the fall or snow events over the winter. We've also had a request from the Watauga County Board of Elections who consider using the gymnasiums of our schools as polling locations to ensure large polling places and adequate social distancing for folks who come to the polls. They haven't decided on that yet, but if they do, I may designate Election Day, November the 3rd, as one of those remote learning days. But none of that requires any change of the calendar that you've already approved. And as I'll mention in just a few moments about public health guidance that we've received today, we do anticipate seeing students in school with us on August the 17th. We also received guidance today from the North Carolina High School Athletic Association about the safety precautions that will be put into place as we resume high school athletics this coming Monday. That guidance will focus on the screening of students, ensuring that there is tracking of student health, that there is minimal contact between students, and that there's adequate sanitation of equipment, no sharing of equipment. It will probably largely be conditioning for our student athletes to start with, but that will begin, I believe, on Tuesday, the 16th. But we are clear of that down period come Monday, the 15th. So we look forward to seeing our athletes back on campus and beginning to practice and getting further guidance from the state about what competitions will look like in the fall. I mentioned that guidance from the Department of Health and Human Services was released today in Governor Cooper's press conference at 3 o'clock. It is an extensive document that we have been reviewing today, and it outlines a 3-tiered approach to the return to school. We have a return to school work group that is formed, and we'll have our first meeting this week to begin putting together very specific plans around things like health, screening of students, cleaning and sanitation of our facilities and buses and classrooms, social distancing in our buildings, communication with our parents, things like that. The 3-tiered approach, just very briefly, is minimal social distancing. That would look like regular school operations with lots of considerations for screening of students and staff and maintaining as much social distancing as possible. The level 2 would be moderate social distancing, and that would be where we might consider a blended approach to remote learning and face-to-face, where we have smaller groups of students at school at one time. And the 3rd level would be remote instruction, which would look a lot like what we experienced in the latter half of the school year. Those phases would be determined by public health guidance around data, statistics around 5 different metrics that DHHS has outlined. We will work closely with our colleagues at App Healthcare, Jen Green, the director there, and her staff in coming up with our plans, and we hope to have that guidance out soon. What I would say to parents and students, though, is we will have school come August. It will look different in terms of the precautions that we make or what phase we are in and how much of it might be remote. But we look forward to having all of our students engaged with us, if not in school, in person with us in August. Just a few more things. We have had our facilities have remained closed to the public throughout this, and that was for the protection of our staff and to maintain the cleanliness and sanitation of our facilities. I want to say a big word of thanks to all of our custodial staff and maintenance staff for the hard work that they have been doing in our facilities. We've been able to do some deferred maintenance that we haven't been able to do in the past. But with the reopening of the phases, we are considering the slow reopening of our facilities. And unless something changes over the next week, next Monday, June the 15th, we will begin a phased reopen of our facilities where our school offices will reopen to the public with precautions in place of allowing one person at a time to come into the building, but to do the business of registration or gathering information about enrollment in school and that sort of thing. We will also allow our hard surfaces at our K-8 schools, that would be largely basketball courts, to be used by the public. We already have our fields and our walking tracks at the K-8 schools open to the public. We will also open our picnic shelters to the public. But the playground equipment will remain closed by the governor's executive order at least until the start of phase 3, which is currently slated or estimated to be around June the 26th. As we progress and look at public health statistics and get guidance from local health officials, we will progressively open up our facilities to more use of outdoor facilities or parking lots, and the eventual resuming of activities inside the schools. The facility at Watauga High School, the athletic facilities will remain closed to the public as we are now beginning to have our own athletes returning in to use those facilities. We will revisit the public use of those facilities as we move into the phase 3. And we'll have lots of signage on our outdoor facilities for reminders of appropriate social distancing and health considerations. And last, I just want to say, as I do every chance I get, a thank you to our child nutrition workers, Monica Bullock and her staff, all of our bus drivers, the teachers, assistants, administrators, everyone who's worked so hard. Today, we surpassed 203,000 meals that have been made and distributed since March the 17th. And I just want to take every opportunity possible to say thank you to those folks.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Elliott. We appreciate it. It's a great report. Ms. Lawson, the students report.
Hi, everyone.
Hey.
Hello, Haley.
Hi. I just wanted to say it has been vastly different preparing for this meeting by myself. I am really saddened and missing Emmy. So I wish her great success, and I'm so thankful for all that she has done in her leadership this year and her guidance. But it is just me tonight. I'm going solo.
And
but
you're
it's just
the
like
senior
a
now.
huh? Yeah. Oh
You're
my
the
goodness.
senior now.
Don't remind me.
Scary.
It's kind of, but so I just have a short couple little notes that I wanted to talk to you guys about. So obviously we've been talking about it. The school year has came to an end, and I just wanted to thank all of you guys as well as all the teachers and staff. You guys made remote learning so much easier and better for us. It definitely could have been, a much worse situation, and I thank you guys for all that you have done. I also wanted to say that high school teachers, high school administration, 8th grade teachers, and Pioneer ambassadors all worked together, and they met virtually with 8th graders from all throughout the K-8 schools. There were 17 meetings in total. That was one for every 8th grade homeroom class across the K-8 schools. And they pretty much just discussed what it was like at Watauga High School and what to expect. They talked about the importance of Flex and how to use it. They made, just overall important announcements that rising 9th graders need to know or should know. And so it was almost like the middle school visits that we do in the spring, but it was a little bit more teacher-led. But Pioneer ambassadors were still able to answer any and every question that the 8th graders have. And it was a lot of fun to see them and kind of guide them, in their towards the high school, because they will be there in August soon, very soon. Also at Watauga High School, Chromebook drop-off has been happening. It already did happen last week, I think, and I think that all of that went smoothly. I drove through the line, and a big shout out and thank you to all of the people who helped out with that, because it looked like they had a big team in the gym working, and they just did a great job and had everything run smoothly, as well as yearbook distribution. That was a really smooth process, and it was so nice to see our finished yearbook and it all come together. It was wonderful. And like it has already been discussed, the high school's graduation took place, and it was an all-day event. I have seen pictures and heard from seniors that it was amazing. And like Dr. Elliott said, it was definitely very special. I'm looking forward to hopefully seeing the video. And also many of the K-8 schools did drive-through ceremonies and or virtual type ceremonies. And so we are so proud of all of our graduates and all that they have accomplished and all their hard work. And we just wish them a lot of success in the years to come. That's all.
Thank you, Ms. Lawson. That's a great report, and you're going to be a great senior representative.
Yeah.
Thank you. I'm hoping so. It's a little bit scary and a little nerve-wracking, but it's okay.
Hopefully, we'll have you some help here before long.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. At this time, it's time for our consent agenda. And for those people that are not with us normally, we have 8 different things on the consent agenda, and I want to go over those so you know what we'll be voting on. The first is approval of our minutes. Then we have a surplus declaration request, a budget amendment, career and technical education plan proposal, the approval of a resolution in support of broadband expansion of broadband in North Carolina, the approval of a resolution denouncing racism and violence and reaffirming Watauga County Schools' commitment to equity and success for all students. We have a mowing contract and a personnel report. And we're going to vote on all those things. There's a couple of those that I would like to single out and go over so that the public can hear what it is we're doing. The first one is the resolution of the Watauga County Board of Education in support of promoting wide distribution of broadband internet access to all locations in our region, expansion of access to high-speed internet by removing barriers to broadband infrastructure. The reason this is important is because we have areas in Watauga County where kids cannot access the internet, and when we're trying to do remote learning, they don't have that access. So I want to thank Dr. Elliott and Dr. Fenwick for working on this, and I'm going to read the resolution at this time. It says, whereas broadband infrastructure, which consists of installed telecommunications equipment network and the technology necessary to provide high-speed internet access, has become essential to connect Watauga County's residents, businesses, nonprofits, schools, communities, and governments, both within and outside the county and state. And whereas many citizens of Watauga County lack adequate access to broadband internet access and infrastructure, and whereas many students in the Watauga County school system participate in the remote learning environment, both during normal school operations and during the recent COVID-19 outbreak, and whereas the lack of broadband in vast areas of our county creates significant educational inequities for students and teachers, and whereas Governor Roy Cooper signed Executive Order number 91 on March 14, 2019, establishing the Task Force on Connecting North Carolina, promoting expansion of all access to high-speed internet and removing barriers to broadband infrastructure installation. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the Watauga County Board of Education recognizes the need for increased broadband access in all our locations of our region, and declare our support for Governor Cooper's Executive Order number 91, signed on March 14, 2019, adopted this 8th day of June 2020. So we have some areas in Watauga County that still don't have access to broadband. They don't have access to cable in lots of ways. So we're hoping that maybe this pandemic, if it doesn't have any bright spots, maybe it'll expand broadband throughout places that don't have it at this time. And our students obviously need it. The second,
Mr. Chairman,
yes.
could I offer an additional clause to that, or would you like me to do that after you've?
You may. I'd like to hear it. Yes, go right ahead so everybody can hear it, Jay.
So the resolution, after all the whereas clauses that set up the whys, what we're saying is that we're agreeing with the governor's executive order to expand broadband access. And I was thinking we might end with another be it resolved section that would be more of a call to action for our legislators, because this is going to require funding. So I would propose that we add the following. Be it further resolved that the Watauga County Board of Education calls upon national, state, and local authorities to publicly fund and or incentivize private funding that provides for a rapid deployment of these needed broadband services.
I think that would be very appropriate. Would you do me a favor and send that to Dr. Elliott in the form of an email so that we can have that?
If I may, Mr. Henrys, Dr. Fenwick and I did discuss this after the board agenda and board packet was released. So we have a statement in the resolution which has been printed. Now, if I may read that statement, and if it concurs with Dr. Fenwick's suggestion, then I would offer it for your approval. So it says, so be it further resolved that the Watauga County Board of Education calls upon national, state, and local authorities to publicly fund and or incentivize private funding that provides for a rapid deployment of these needed broadband services.
I think that's the same thing Dr. Fenwick said. Is that the same thing you said, Jay?
I agree with that.
All right.
Okay.
Okay. So I want that to be in the resolution. Does it, first of all, do we have a motion to approve this resolution
So moved.
as amended? Yeah. Okay, Steve, okay, motion. Who will second?
But second, with a point of clarification,
Okay.
the document in our packet has the last statement that Dr. Fenwick and Dr. Elliott has referred to. So the document that we are that was presented for action for us to read, and I guess it's part of public record already, has that phrase in it. So
Mine does not. The one that I just read does not have that phrase in it.
Yes, Dr. Childers, when we issued the digital copy of the agenda and packet, it was included in there. It just was not prior when the printed packets were created.
okay, so
So we have a motion to approve it with the addition of Dr. Fenwick's statement.
and I've seconded that, but I don't know if probably do not need a further motion to approve the document presented in the electronic packet. That may be just being too picky about things, but
Well, I asked for the motion to include Dr. Fenwick's statement. So that would be the one that's in the electronic packet.
all right. So second stands then. Thank you.
Mhm. Are there any questions or comments regarding the resolution for broadband access? Hearing none, let's have the question. All those in favor, signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? That is unanimous. The next resolution is a resolution denouncing racism and violence and reaffirming our commitment to equity and success for all students. Whereas the Watauga County Board of Education is committed to supporting the social and emotional needs of Watauga County school students, and whereas the board recognizes that many students will return in the fall filled with excitement, uncertainty, anxiety, relief, and even trauma based on their experiences in the last few months. And whereas the Watauga County Board of Education and its staff are deeply saddened by the most recent event which occurred in Minneapolis and the effect such turmoil has on people around the United States of America, and especially the impact these events have on our children. And whereas through its strategic plan, Watauga County Schools deliberately places the highest value on the health and well-being of our students, the fostering of positive school culture, and the modeling of integrity and equity for our students. Now therefore be it resolved, the Watauga County Board of Education affirms there is no place in our society or our schools for racism, hate, violence, or discrimination, and is committed to denouncing racism and violence and reaffirming its commitment to equity and success for all students. Adopted this 8th day of June 2020. Have there been any additions to this one that I don't know about? Okay. Hearing none, do we have a motion to approve the resolution denouncing racism and violence?
I so move.
Second with enthusiasm.
We have a motion and a second. Do we have any questions or comments regarding this resolution? Hearing none, all those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? That's unanimous. So now we will move into our regular consent agenda. Items A through H that I listed a few minutes ago. Do we have a motion to approve all of those items? Dr. Elliott, you got something to say?
Please go ahead, but I would like to ask Tiara Stark, our Director of Career and Technical Education and Assistant Principal at Watauga High School, to join us with her video if she is on, and just to say a word or two about the Cte Annual Plan. We would normally make a presentation and an update for you. Included in your packet is a wonderful infographic that Mrs. Stark created. Good evening, Ms. Stark. Would you give us just a word or two about the Cte Annual Plan, what it is and why it requires the board's approval?
Absolutely. So we've been working under Perkins 4 for many years now, and we recently moved to Perkins 5, and that's our funding source and the laws that we live under in career and technical education. So this local plan is looking at where to put our money for the following year. We also have to do a comprehensive local needs assessment to determine where our program has been, where it is currently, and where we want to take it. So the small infographic that you have in front of you tonight is just a few pieces of the data that I can get my hands on right now. Because we're transitioning between Perkins 4 and Perkins 5, we don't have as much current data to work with, and we have all new baselines. So I don't have good comparative data for you, but as you can see, current technical education in Watauga County schools is strong, and our students are having positive placements after they leave us. And we're serving almost all of our students in Watauga County schools in career and technical education, and that's by choice mostly. So our students are doing great things and our teachers are doing great things. What we have for you tonight is a planning summary sheet for you to sign off on with the understanding that we have funds, both state and federal, coming into career and technical education to buy things like supplies, to equipment, and to fund salaries for the educators in the program.
All right. Do we have any questions?
Yep, Mr. Henrys, I'm sorry. If I could also just say that integrated with our career technical education plan is our Watauga Innovation Academy. And Ms. Stark, in her many hats, is the director of that academy. I mentioned at graduation, and again, people will see that in our forthcoming video, that among our 335 graduates, I believe it was, we had 194 students in the class who had earned 929 college credits while in high school. And I don't have the numbers in front of me, but we also had a significant number of those students who were WIA graduates who earned a community college certificate. And we want to celebrate our first ever Watauga Innovation Academy student who graduated with both his associate's degree and his high school diploma. So many thanks to Mrs. Stark and the CTE teachers and our partnership with Caldwell Community College.
Fantastic.
Wonderful news.
Great things are happening. Thank you, Tara. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Stark.
All right. Now, do we have a motion to approve consent agenda items A through H?
Could I ask one question about the budget
Sure.
amendment?
Yes.
Yes, if we can have Mrs. Mars join us, she can probably answer our budget amendment questions.
I know she's on. There she is on my screen.
Here we go.
Hello, Ms. Mars.
Hello.
Hello. So my question is about the adjustment that included the CARES Act funding of about $673,000. Is that going to be the only CARES Act funding that we receive, or would we expect to receive additional funds from the CARES Act?
I can probably answer that if you'd like. So I've shared with the board recently 4 different sources of funds that we have received from COVID relief. We are hearing that there might be additional financial relief that comes from either the state, we know that the legislature is meeting right now, or an additional relief act that comes from the federal government. We don't know. But right now we have our share of the $50 million from the governor and the Department of Public Instruction. It's about $133,000 that came to us in March for all of our emergency relief needs. We recently received an allocation of around $145,000 specifically for child nutrition needs. That was part of the COVID relief. Then the $646,000 roughly in COVID relief money from the federal government that flowed to the state, which came directly to the schools. And we are using those funds to prepare for next school year. And also because those funds have they do not expire until the end of the federal fiscal year, the end of September 2021. We're being conservative with the use of those funds, given the possibility of budget cuts that might occur. And then, as was recently reported, the Watauga County Commissioners received an allocation in COVID relief funds, and they've allocated those funds to local municipalities, App Healthcare, the local hospital, and then $125,000 for us. There's the 4 pots of COVID relief funds that we have right now. Lots of restrictions in place for all of those funds, but they are primarily right now being used for our child nutrition operations and for things like the purchasing of personal protection equipment. We have ordered face masks, face shields, gloves, sanitation equipment, chemicals for sanitation, signage, and things like that. It's probably a longer answer than you wanted. But.
No, that's good for the public record. So no more expected funds unless new legislation is passed.
That I know of. Those are the 4 sources of funds that have been approved and already allocated. We are not expecting anything additional to come to us that has been approved. So anything in addition to that would have to come from new legislation from the state or the federal government.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
All righty. Do we have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
And a second.
Second.
Any other comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda items A through H, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? It was unanimous. We will now move into policies, and these are policies for first reading. We have 3 policies for first reading. The first one is policy 4230, communicable diseases, students. Do you have any questions regarding this policy, the way it's written?
And good evening, Dr. Eberly, who's here to answer any questions that you might have. Thank you, Dr. Eberly.
Okay, I've not heard anybody say anything. All right, the second policy for first read is 7560, permitted salary deduction for absences and discipline of certain exempt employees.
I have a
questions?
Go ahead.
question.
Yes, Jay.
I guess I have 2 questions. One is, in the first paragraph, it mentions this salary basis requirement. I guess I'm just not familiar with what salary basis means there. And in the second paragraph, I guess am I reading this? I don't quite understand. Maybe I'm between the strikeouts and the new language. I'm not following what's going on in that paragraph, but we're paying full salary for people that do any amount of work. So 1 hour's worth of work pays someone a full week, I guess is how I'm reading that. So I just am wanting somebody to help me understand how I'm misreading it. It's
a good question. And so those 2 paragraphs should be condensed together. The the strikeouts create a flow of one paragraph to another. And then the second is, it doesn't say any amount of work, it's any work. And there are some real stringent guidelines in the Fair Labor Standards Act as to what constitutes work, so that employees are protected from, say, an employer who might encourage or require activities at the workplace without compensation, say on a volunteer basis or something like that. So this does not mean that this has nothing to do with how much one works or how much one is paid, but that one is paid for work, and that is a protection of Fair Labor Standards Act.
Okay.
Thank you, Dr. Elliott. Yes.
Any other questions about 7560?
General question, Mr. Chairman. All the revisions to these policies, again, come from North Carolina School Boards Association. Is that the only source of revision for these?
And many of these have been reviewed by our attorneys, I think.
Okay.
Not all of them, but I think some of them we send to Mr. Henning or Chris Campbell, and they review these policies as well.
All right. No. Okay. Thank you.
And the third policy is payroll deductions, 7620. This is where money can be deducted from someone's check, and these are the reasons listed how that can happen.
And the addition here of number 15, I would say, just reflects current practice, not just here, but in most school systems. And that is if there is an error in payroll or an overpayment, or if an employee leaves prematurely or something like that, that there can be, or actually not if they leave prematurely, but if there's an error in payroll or something like that, that there can be deductions set up with the employee to set up a payment plan. It rarely ever happens. It already occurs. This School Board Association just recommends that we include it in policy.
Any questions about 7620? All right, hearing none, we're going to move to policies for second reading. The first one is 1402, remote participation in board meetings.
And Mr. Chairman, if I may, good evening, everyone. So 1402, or all of our policies, I guess I should say, that you're getting ready to see tonight are coming to you with no changes from first read, with the exception of 1402. 1402, our good friends at the North Carolina School Boards Association sent us an updated 1402 about 10 days ago, and it has a new Section A in it. But as Dr. Elliott and I read that new Section A, it really didn't change the content. Rather, that Section A just allowed for additional clarification. And then what it did was it bumped down the rest of the subsections. And so when we read through it, we didn't think it was anything that would cause us to have to take 1402 back off the table and take it back before you for first read, in that it was going to be recommended to you for second read with the changes from the North Carolina School Boards Association.
Any questions about that one? The next one is 4333, weapons, bomb threats, terrorist threats, and clear threats to safety. Any questions regarding this? All right, the next one is 4400, attendance. The next one is 4700, student records. The next one is 5015, school volunteers. The next one is 5050, emergency closings.
Dr. Childers.
Sir,
our electronic page turning is much quieter than their physical page turning.
Dr. Philwick, I feel so technologically advanced over some of our other board members.
You just lucky you got some of us old people that are utilizing both.
Yeah, I'm just spinning the wheel on the mouse is all I'm doing.
Sorry to make so much noise.
I'll try to quieten down a little.
It's mostly Ron, Steve.
Yeah.
It's me. It's me.
Mr. Chairman, would you like motions, two separate motions for the first read and second read, or one motion
No,
for it?
we don't vote on first read.
Okay.
And we've still got a couple more second reads here. 6125 is administering medication to students. 6420 contracts with the board. And the last one is 7360 8225 crowdfunding on behalf of the school system.
Mr. Chairman, members of the board, as a quick point of clarification for you for 7360 8225 crowdfunding on behalf of the school system. Just to reiterate, if we do make a motion and approve this policy will be in line with 6420 and will also be in line with 6430, the bid process, in that principals will be authorized up to $5,000, superintendent up to $90,000, and the board in excess of $90,000 for crowdfunding. So all of those dollar amounts will be parallel and will be similar through all three policies. So they'll all essentially make sense in the cross references.
All righty.
Just editorial comment on this crowdfunding policy from our first introduction of this at the school board's conference last summer to the evolution of this policy with the input from all parties. It really is in my opinion, a really fine policy to guide our school system. So appreciate the work from our folks, our staff here, and the state on this.
And thank you. And our principals appreciate having these parameters and guidance in board policy.
Yes.
We have a motion to approve for second read policies A through I.
I'll make that motion.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Any comments or questions about any of them before we vote? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? That's unanimous. Our next item is public comment. Did we have anybody send in anything for public comment?
We did not receive any public comment.
All right. Next thing is board operations.
I would just ask the board, if you have not already, to look for your emails from the North Carolina School Board Association. It is official that the Summer Leadership and Policy Conference, which is typically held in June, has been canceled and has become now a virtual Summer Policy and Leadership Conference. And if any of you would like to register for any of those sessions, we'll be glad to register you and pay the registration fee. That will be during the week of June the 22nd through June the 26th.
Would it be possible to consider the board still maybe meeting in Boone somewhere socially distant during those times? Because what was really valuable about the summer conference wasn't just, well, of course, being out on the beach was nice, but what was really valuable was being able to talk with each other during and after sessions to think about how what we were learning was applying to us. So I'd certainly be open to trying to, have a small group of us, get together to participate in that.
I feel the same way, Dr. Fenwick.
I think that'd be a great idea. That week that the summer conference was to be held, my family had already rented a place at the beach this week. So I'll be gone that week. I'll be out of town that week, but I could do it some other week.
Well, maybe if we planned it ahead, we could decide which of the webinars we wanted to maybe meet and discuss afterwards or something, and that way you wouldn't have to necessarily, join for every single one of them, but maybe at a certain couple key points, maybe once a day, we could try to get together or something like that. So,
Yeah.
We can certainly contact Ramona with School Board Association and see what our options are. And if a small gathering to watch them live together and have some discussion is something you're interested in, we can certainly make the space available to that. We also could pull together a planning meeting later in the summer where at a time when everyone is available to discuss some of those issues if you'd like. But we'll look into that and see. Well, the best thing would be if those sessions are or if they are recorded and we could all view them at another time. That would also be helpful.
That would be great.
That would be good.
One item we need to discuss is the July board meeting. There's a chance that we're going to move into a situation where we could have a regular meeting in July. Ms. Reese is going to be out of town for that time. Do you want to change the meeting so that she could be here, or
Don't do that for me, Ron. I'll change what I'm doing.
no? I mean, we can check. We've changed the meetings for other people, and we'll be glad to do it for you. Or you can do it remotely, whichever you would choose to do.
Let's just keep at the meeting as it should be, and then I'll work my part out.
You're sure?
I'm sure.
Okay, because we can change the date if that would be helpful.
Thank you.
what is the date?
July the 13th.
Wow, that one's late.
Just like this one is early. It just all depends on when the
Yeah.
first day of the week falls.
That
First day of the
darn
month
calendar.
falls.
Anything else under board operations? How about board comments?
I attended the graduation ceremony, and so I wanted to just echo what Dr. Elliott said. It really was a well-organized, well-run event. Wanted to congratulate everyone that was involved in planning it. I was fortunate to be by Assistant Principal Rachel Shepard for much of the event, and she had a big part in that. But I mean, it really went well, and I heard a number of fantastic comments from people after the event. So kudos to everyone involved. It was so much better than an all virtual ceremony that I've seen, and some of the ones I've read about that are just pure drive through, and they just reach through the window and grab their diploma and honk their horn and go on.
I started to say
Well, to our-
drive-through did not do this
families.
one justice.
Yeah.
If you had been there and seen how everybody worked and how hard everybody and how well planned it was and how much fun people were having, it was a remarkable experience. I'm glad I got to participate for as long as I did. I still have not figured out how Dr. Elliott, Dr. Blanton, and Tiara stood there that whole time. I made it for 5 or 5.5 hours, but they stood there till 5:30, and it was remarkable to have that endurance. I think it had something to do with age, but I'm not sure.
Well, I said Tiara was as inviting and welcoming to the very last graduate as she was to the first one.
Well done.
She absolutely was.
Ron, I think one of the things that was really fantastic about the whole event was being able to watch the support that families gave the graduates as they drove through, because some of these people had a lot of folks following them and had banners on their cars and got out and took pictures and really, got moved by the graduation experience itself. And I think that was fantastic to see the support of the families.
It'll be hard to come up with another one that'd be any better than that one. I can tell you that. It was remarkable. And
Well, for all that our seniors have been through and all of their accomplishments these many years, they certainly deserved it.
absolutely.
And I just add my thanks to all of these words to Dr. Blanton and his staff for their hard work. It was a special day.
I want to echo that, Dr. Elliott, and I know I always need to include you in that because I know you're enmeshed in the background planning of things quite often. But it is to have a day like that requires an immense amount of preparation weeks and weeks and weeks prior to the event actually coming off, and the success of that reflects a lot of hard work from many people for that kind of event to happen as well as it did. So just to echo your comments to the staff and Dr. Blanton, and to all the staff at the high school, as well as yourself, Dr. Elliott, whom I know you're involved with a lot of the details of these things as well. And then to just echo that what's been said numerous times about the effort of all of our teachers and staff and leaders for the last part of this year to cause education to continue in as meaningful fashion as possible. It was just truly a remarkable thing that everybody was involved with, and I'm just so proud to be part of this whole process in the position all of us are in now, but to know the team is just as strong as it's ever been and doing great work for the young people in the community.
Anyone else? Do we have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
All those in favor, say aye.
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 We are adjourned. Y'all have a great day. See you later.
You too.
Bye.
Bye, Gary. Bye, Jay.
Bye, Steve.